After our introduction last week, this week we actually get full into our study of the return of God's people to the land of Israel. This study will give us another glimpse into the truth that God never forgets His promises, and that He can use anyone, even a king who didn't really know Him. We also find that even though everyone could have gone back to Israel, there were many who were comfortable where they were. And now, here's Pastor Todd.
Thank you for joining us for the midweek message. We've begun a study into the return stage, what Harold Wilmington in his book called Wilmington's Guide to the Bible calls the return stage. It's going to be a study of Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi. So last week we looked at 2 Chronicles 36 as kind of an introduction. We were reminded how they got into Babylonian captivity and how God fulfilled His promise bringing them out of Babylonian captivity. Today we're going to look at Ezra chapter 1. As we look at Ezra chapter 1, the very first thing we're reminded is the way in which God uses kings in other countries. Sometimes we think that God only works in the borders that mankind sets, but the truth is God is never limited. He can use anybody at any time, even people that we think are against us, even people though we think that would never care about God. God has the ability to move their spirit. I love this. Ezra chapter 1 says, "Now in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled, the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, so that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and also put in writing, saying, Thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, all the kingdoms of the earth the Lord God of heaven has given me, and He has commanded me to build Him a house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Who is among you of all His people? May His God be with him, and let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Judah, and build the house of the Lord God of Israel, His God, which is in Jerusalem. And whoever is left in any place where he dwells, let the men of his place help him with silver and gold, with goods and livestock, besides the freewill offerings for the house of God, which is in Jerusalem." It's amazing that God uses someone who is not Jewish to set the Jews free, make it so that the temple can be rebuilt. You have to understand, Cyrus is given an incredible proclamation here that no nation around him would ever push back against. He's sending them home, but not just sending them home, He's sending them home under His protection. God can use anybody He wants to. Now the next thing that we notice is this. In verse 5, starting in verse 5, we start to realize not everybody returned. Not everybody went back. There were a lot of people who become comfortable in a foreign land, and they ended up staying there. Now you would think you came out of Israel, you look back over your shoulder, saw the temple being destroyed, and you always thought, boy, someday maybe we'll return. Someday maybe we'll return. You read the prophecies. You believed it could be 70 years. But during the time that you're in Babylonian captivity, you've become comfortable. You just can't go home, but you've been allowed to start a new life. And that life for you, for your children, or for your grandchildren has become a comfortable life to live. So much so that when it comes time that God says, hey, I'm going to send you home, I'm going to give you protection, you don't always go. In verse 5 it says, "Then the heads of their father's house of Judah and Benjamin, and the priests and the Levites, with all whose spirit God has moved, arose to go up and build the house of the Lord, which is in Jerusalem. And all those who were around them encouraged them with articles of silver and gold, with goods and livestock, and with precious things, besides all that was willingly offered." I love this. There's a group of people who said, look, we're going to go back and build the temple. And there's a group of people that came around them and said, we're going to support you in that matter. We're going to back you 100%, but we're not going back to Jerusalem. It's funny, sometimes those things that would be so obvious, to say that I want to be in the will of God, to see the will of God, to know that it's the will of God, how often do we say, not for me? That looks like a long journey. That looks like a difficult thing. I'll give to it. I'll support it. I'll even encourage it and pray for it. But I'm just not willing to go. I want to tell you, there's a great blessing in praying, and there's a great blessing in giving, and there's a great blessing in serving. But if God ever calls you to a great work, oh, don't miss out. Don't miss out. No matter how scary it may be and how unnerving it might be to think about, don't miss out on the blessings of God by only being half-hearted in your service. If God calls you to do something new, do something new. Don't miss out on the power of God. And if God doesn't call you to do something new, support those who are called. And that's what we see right here. In verse 7, we see this. What they thought had been forever lost had actually been preserved by God under different circumstances. They thought it was all gone. They thought when the temple was torn down, the gold was gone, the silver was gone, the treasuries were gone. They thought they were gone forever. Maybe they would rebuild them, or maybe they would do something like that. But yet God had housed them in a very unusual place. But He did so that when it was time for them to return, they'd have these things to take with them. In verse 7 it says, King Cyrus also brought out the articles of the house of the Lord, which Nebuchadnezzar had taken from Jerusalem and put in the temple of his gods. And Cyrus, king of Persia, brought them out by the hand of Mithridath, the treasurer, and counted them out to Sheshbazzar, the prince of Judah. This is the number of them: 30 gold platters, 1,000 silver platters, 29 knives, 30 gold basins, 410 silver basins of a similar kind, and 1,000 other articles. All the articles of gold and silver were 5,400. All these Sheshbazzar took with the captives who were brought from Babylon to Jerusalem. So all these articles of gold they thought were gone forever, God knew exactly where they were. Now, they were in another temple, in another God's temple, but here's the thing. Those gods are not real. Our God was just housing them for a period of time. And when He was ready to take them back, He just reached down and took them back. In your life, those treasures that you think are gone forever, they may not be. You never know what God might do if you would begin to follow His will. When we follow Him with earnestness, when we follow Him with all of our lives, it's amazing how sometimes He brings back those things that we thought were forever lost. Sometimes that's stuff, but more often it's relationships. It's amazing what God can do when we just are willing to follow His will. So what's God calling you to do today? I hope that you'll be praying. I hope that you'll be open. And I pray that God speaks to you in a special way and shows you the next steps for your life. You know, God's got a great plan for you. I hope that you'll be open to seeing what it is. Have a great day. Thank you for watching.